more from life than they actually do. And one particular characteristic usually comes with another set, but what I noticed from the past, let's say 1 month, 30 days, is that when people need something, and I'm talking about, let's say, a little bit longer context, not totally fresh, also not longer than 1 year, usually they only reach out when they need something. And I think that kind of attitude keeps you very, very, very small. And it also keeps you in one spot in life, always in the same spot. And I'm actually thinking about my words, because like always, I don't want to offend anybody, but I want to speak reality. If you really look at somebody's life, how much they control, let's say, time, finance, and not only time and finance, also their relationships, it's usually based upon very superficial behavior, which means you get together, you complain a lot, and then you actually go separate ways again. And it's not to disrespect anybody, but it's something to start thinking about, that what you're actually doing with other people. So for example, a lot of new people that come into my life, and that's a lot, I always maintain a relationship by actually doing always a little bit more than the other person. What does that mean? Well, simply if a person is new, then I simply reach out a little bit more often than they do. This is not to stalk, but also I know from a lot of people, they think that the other person is too busy for something. And I understand a lot of people are quote unquote very busy with something, although they work for a boss and here and there a couple of breakups and that's it. That's not considered busy in my opinion. And the thing is, like what I always say, or I also want to add, the way I live is simply very Spartan and very disciplined and hyper obsessed with communication, with people in very many different ways. And that means also have video, sound only. Some people only feel comfortable with doing phone calls, simply older people, and that I communicate with, let's say, growth focused talks. And not only this, also pretty high level bonds that simply feel more comfortable by, and also not only more comfortable, but also not used to the tech. So that's also a thing. I adapt, but when it's about people who only reaching out when they need something, I always feel a little bit sad for them, because see, I bring a little bit more to the table than the average person, and this is not to brag, and people know this, but I also noticed that some only reach out when they need something. And in the meantime, because I also, it's very simple to check out somebody's behavior and what they really want from life. People don't need to tell me what they want. You go to the Instagram profile and you see what they like or who they follow, and it's very easy to make some sort of profile. And 99% of the time I'm pretty hitting the sweet spots, and that is not, again, to be judgmental, but it's simply to protect my time. I know from a lot of young guys that I talk with here in Bulgaria, I just go through who they follow and everything, and I can make up a pretty good profile what they really want. They don't have to tell me what they want. The thing is, when I meet them, see, I understand many times the younger people who didn't actually do anything yet with their lives, and I'm saying this again with all the respect, but a lot of people think that they have all the time in the world and blah blah blah. You don't. You simply don't. Like I always say, I started selling door to door when I was 11, the bicycle cleaning service, and when you're 18 and you think you have all the time in the world, you simply don't. And if you think you do, then people like me, we're way behind, way ahead of the thing. And the thing is also, when people know me from a lot of failures, the thing is, I failed so many times, people get sick of it, and then it's not interesting anymore. But what I gain is growth. And when it's also about building and maintaining relationships, you simply keep on doing it, reaching out. I do always believe that life is a numbers game, to find your people that you actually really sync with. It's not that other people are bad or whatever. No, you just sync with a person for a short amount of time, longer amount of time. And in my case, I always look for people who I'm syncing, that I sync with, but also are willing to grow, which means there will always be an increase of value that we bring to the table when we meet. It's always challenging, always reality talk. We never sugarcoat anything. Sometimes, let's say, we have debates that other people would think that we are very close to bash each other's head in. Not that it's out of disrespect, but because we're dealing with, real life issues. That is not, looking for fresh batteries to put in your happy time machine. We all know what that means. We're not getting into the 18 plus talk, because anyway, besides that, if you hang around with people who constantly complain about everything, and in the meantime, when they don't need you, so they have other distractions going on, they don't contact you. See, and I'm very, let's say, open-minded, because I understand people have their own things going on, but I know that they're not arrived yet. And people like me, I'm reaching out, even if I would, it would be. Well, let's give an example so people understand that I'm, pretty resilient between years. Even when I was homeless, I reached out to people, and then I never told them in what kind of situation I was. The thing is, I'm just saying, I'm never too busy for somebody who has priority. It's priority. Everybody has time. If you would know with how many people I keep in contact, and I know what the time frames are, the intervals between the outreachers, and it's not only because I'm going through the history. No, I don't waste time on this. I just think, no, maybe that person belongs in the 3-4 days intervals. This person belongs in the 6 months intervals. I got one person, this person, I drop a message, I think, every 6 months, just asking what they're doing. I never ask how they're doing, because, how people are doing, who gives a rat's ass. I believe it's a better conversation starter, and I think it also shows a little bit more interest when you ask, what are you doing? Yeah, but Alan, that sounds very nosy. I don't have the balls to do that. The thing is, good for you. Just get over it. Just ask. And I am doing this always without actually having negative feedback. Maybe also the majority of people know how I am, but just ask what people are doing. That is a conversation starter, not how are you doing? Who gives a rat's ass? First of all, if you wouldn't do very well that day, what are you going to do? You're going to spread the bad news? I'm seeing hello, bro. Oh, bro. Oh, yeah, I had yesterday. Well, yeah, hello. The thing is, when it's about the bro thing, I talked about it. I always respect everybody on the highest level with the highest level of respect. I always talk to people. In general, I address people all with Mr. and Miss. I'm not never changing labels, because in general, people who, do bro things, they're gonna change their language when they, for example, meet their so-called idols, people that they look up to. I got a set of people that I like to take characteristics from, and I am acting towards everybody like this. The homeless guy on the street, the young children that I speak with, of course, always accompanied by their parents, because I never sit with children alone, just for self-protection reasons. We all will understand this. There's not some kind of dirty talk. The thing is, I always treat people on the same level. because when I sit with high level people, I not all of a sudden change my language. I act always the way I am, and not only this, because this little tiny live stream is all about, you don't act all of a sudden different when you need something. People who act temporarily different, and it's also the same with guys, right? All the guys, and there comes a woman in. I like to play around with this because I have a lot of female friends, and then when I sit with guys, I just want to see how they change all of a sudden, and they change. Bam. That's the kind of guy, the category of guy. They didn't find themselves yet. They don't have the confidence yet, which I would never do business with. I got a lot of strategies that I use to filter out the real people from the people who haven't arrived yet. Said hi. Yeah, hi. Now I see you. Good. That's a good one because and no disrespect to you, but bro, come on, man. For example, let's say it like this: who would you like to meet? Let's assume I don't know, and maybe you like to be I don't know what with a big CEO guy of a company. How would you address them? Hey, bro, nice to meet you. Shall we eat some burgers and pizzas? No, you don't. But maybe you will change then your language, but it's not authentic. People like us, we can smell it. And the thing is, it's not disrespectful to you. Huh? The thing is, this live stream is all about act the way that you feel comfortable with and can be as authentic as possible, and actually, indirectly actually manifest what you want from life. Not all of a sudden change your behavior. Also, when you're around, let's say, gorgeous women or whatever, that you all of a sudden change, from let's say a confident man who hangs around his boys when they drink a six-pack of beer, and then all of a sudden the woman walks in and you change behavior. I always see, for me, life is one big study place, right? I'm 47, so I'm doing this since I was actually way much younger, because I spent some time when I was 7 in a place that was pretty Spartan. But the thing is, I'm not using this as some sad little puppy thing. The thing is, I always studied people, always very interested in how they behave, and when it changes out of balance, brother, me, yes. Where are you from? Anyway, so it's always interesting to see people changing, and people who are changing under specific circumstances. You get arrested, or and I'm just mentioning those things. I got tons of times arrested, and not because I'm a super whatever. The thing is, I'm just a hyperactive guy in multiple countries, so that happens. Anyway, before I was 47, I also consumed boatloads of stuff, but not only this, always focused on studying people, and I think it's always nice when you get arrested with a couple of other guys, or maybe even with your girlfriend. This I'm actually thinking about a situation that I can mention. Oh, Turkey. I actually talked today with a woman. She is from Turkey. She actually invited me to come to Turkey. Anyway, I had a couple of days ago a live stream with optimization for girls who are doing webcam things. Let me also tell you this: I'm not looking down on anybody's business model. I'm just optimizing people, their lives and businesses and that kind of bullshit. But if you look at my YouTube videos, you can see I put in the daily disciplines, and I like to drop this kind of live streams that make people think. You should start thinking about your wordings, your actions, and never say what you want. Just show by disciplined habits that like this you get what you want. I live a life of freedom. I'm doing everything from the phone. At 47, I'm steering multiple projects in multiple countries. I don't want to label them as businesses. because that is already so specific again, because I'm building the structures behind the businesses, and probably it's high likely that a lot of people consumed a couple of pieces of content, but also it's possible that I sold you something indirectly. So, but it's not to brag, it's simply an example that you don't need to run the typical 9 to 5 thing. And especially, again, I'm 47, I'm walking around with a Samsung S23. I'm not chasing the latest models and that kind of stuff. For me, if it works, it works. When I was 11, that is in the time that you had to make a phone call like with the circle thing. And now with these hyper modern things, it's insane. Everybody has the key to freedom in their hands, but it comes with a set of habits. Also, the way I eat is very Spartan, clean, but also when I want to go once per year. And by the way, now I'm actually passing by the McDonald's. 17 years ago I arrived here in Sofia, Bulgaria. I lost everything when I was 30, and I went to this Indica. I was always doing offline businesses, and so I didn't know anything about internet thing. And I went to this specific McDonald's to teach myself how to make money online. Now 17 years ago, now 17 years later, I walk over here doing everything from the phone. As you can see, if you put in the work, nobody can fuck around with you. But if you give up and lay down in a corner and, as a tiny little woolen sweater guy, and cry your eyes out about what happened to you, or this one ex-girlfriend did something bad to you, you simply didn't put in the work. Just say it. Look in the mirror and tell yourself, I didn't put in the work. I'm too fat because I didn't put in the work. I'm too stupid to know how to use the phone because I didn't watch Baron his fucking videos. Or I didn't follow his structures, which he explains many times. But it doesn't matter. I give everything away for free, and I will add tons of downloadable stuff, work structures, not strategies that hype you up, work structures. See, when I mention the word work structure, a lot of people will get scared. Ooh, I have to put in work. I don't like that. I just want to do 24 hours of strategy. I want to read about it and get multi-millionaire, and then give my boss the middle finger. Well, my content is all about reality, and that's not how it works, ladies and genties. And it's also not about fabricated characters. Because if you live a fabricated character, you will live a life of slavery. That's how it works. And actually, it's actually a funny thing. Now behind me, people recording, I think, some bullshit commercial. This is the thing, I got nothing about commercials, but when I talked about this, if you're a kind of guy and you're looking for all kind of ways to make money, I understand. But when you waste your money, $27, $49, $99